So how you do Turkish paper, why do I keep saying paper? Paper. I probably said it right, but in my head it sounds funny. Turkish paper marbling. I'm just going to stick with Ebru. Jeez.
Hey there, and welcome to the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. This is the place where families who have or want to have a nomadic lifestyle come together to talk about the highs and lows that this life brings. We celebrate the joys and support each other in the hard. So, if you are a digital nomad family, or will be in the future, this is the place for you. We're glad you're here.
Hey guys, Marissa here with Digital Nomad Family Podcast. And I just want to say a really quick thing. If you listened to last week's episode, then you're going to notice the volume is kind of quiet. I also talked about in that episode how I don't love technology and figuring out a new way to do the podcast, not like do the podcast, but just physically talk into some type of recording device and then get it online. And I think I'm getting there. So please bear with me over the next couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to be too much longer. Hopefully this one is better and you can hear me better and everything's good to go. I've changed a setting on the microphone that I'm using now. So hopefully that is better, but we'll see. Maybe now I'm too loud. I have no idea. And yeah, thank you for putting up with me and my not knowing things of technology as I have a podcast. So this is real life. It's so funny because so many times when Eric and I are talking, that's my husband, if this is your first episode, we're talking about things and people ask us questions about travel, about family travel, about being full-time travelers with teenagers and just all these questions. And imposter syndrome is so real. And I remember when I first started this podcast telling Eric, I know nothing. And the fact that I am even considering doing a podcast feels so wrong. But hey, I think the harsh reality about imposter syndrome is that none of us ever fully know everything. And so we can be classified as an imposter in almost every area, because what I know about travel now, I didn't know when I was making those first episodes. And what I'm talking about now, I'm going to learn things. And in 2 years, I'm going to look back and go, oh man, like I think I would have done that differently. Or I don't know. I just think we always have a reason to not do something, but I would caution you to not let imposter syndrome be a reason to keep you from doing it, because everyone is still learning. Everyone, at least we should be, right? Everyone should still be learning, should still be growing, should still be improving themselves in all areas of life, not just when it comes to learning how to clip this microphone on my shirt properly and put the settings in my phone, but as a wife, as a mom, as a Christian, as a traveler, as a friend, I should be improving in all these areas. So that's just a little side note. That's what you get here at the Digital Nomad Family Podcast. You get travel information like we're going to talk about today with a word I can't pronounce. And guys, I've tried to pronounce this word. So please forgive me for saying it wrong, because I'm sure I'm going to. But you also get philosophy about life and all the things. So that's why you listen in. I know it is, for all these tidbits that I give you. Oh, we need to get a guest on this show. I'm starting to go crazy. Today's episode is actually something that my family and I did back in Istanbul. You saw on the title. I'm really bad at like making suspenseful things. And it's water marbling. And the Turkish way to pronounce it is Ebru, I think. I'm going to say Ebru, but if I'm wrong, please don't be super mean to me. I'm doing my best with that. But my family had the opportunity to do Ebru in Istanbul. And this is something that it's done in not just Turkey, it is done in a couple different countries, but Turkey definitely is kind of what uses it a lot. And it's really fun. And another word for it is water marbling. And the reason it's called that is because you use water to make an art. So we because back then we weren't doing any type of partnership. We barely do partnerships now. So please don't think that we do. We've done, I think, 2, maybe, maybe just 1. No, 2. We've done 2. So it's not like we do it a lot. Everything you hear is we've paid for. But we went to a place called Turkish Arts in Istanbul. And so I'm just going to read off of their website, and this will be in the show notes. But I'm just going to read off of their website what Turkish art, what Ebru is. And so I'm going to start reading now. Turkish paper marbling is a method of aqueous surface design, which can produce patterns similar to marble or other stone, hence the name. The patterns are the result of color floated on either plain water or a viscous solution known as size, and then carefully transferred to a sheet of paper or other surfaces such as fabric. And this is exactly what it is. So how you do Turkish paper, why do I keep saying paper? Paper. I probably said it right, but in my head it sounds funny. Turkish paper marbling, I'm just going to stick with Ebru, geez, is you have this water solution. And at Turkish Arts, they do make a viscous solution. They do make the size. And it's actually, I can't remember which animal, it might be oxen bile. And they put this in the water, and it does have a smell, which actually is kind of fun because it makes you feel like you really are doing something. I don't know. I like it when things are very sensory. So it's you can feel it, you can hear it, you can smell it. For me, that makes a memory really strong. So I remember going up to our very first volcano, and it smells like the sulfur, I love that because to me, it gives it a deeper memory, because then if you smell that smell again, you can be like, oh, remember when we did this? For me, it's the same idea of occasionally I'll get a smell and it takes me back to a memory of my childhood. Maybe you guys, that doesn't happen to you, but for me, it does. And so when I'm making memories and there's a strong smell component to it, I enjoy it. So it does kind of stink, but it's not super strong. So as you are making the Ebru, you will smell it, but as soon as it dries, the paper doesn't smell like it anymore. And you kind of get used to the smell of it just in a few minutes, really. But so they have the water, and then they put the bile in it, and then they kind of swirl it around a little bit. Then what you do is you have different colored paints, and the paints are very, very liquidy. I have no idea. I'm not an artist. So I'm not sure if these paints are just this way or if they're regular paints watered down. I don't remember. But you have very liquidy paints, and then you have various tools that you'll dip in the paint, and then you very carefully dip it in the water. Then once you have these circles, because then it'll come off the tool that you're using, and it'll just be like a circle of paint, then you can turn this circle into various different shapes. And so some of the more basic shapes are a very easy flower. You can learn how to do a leaf. That one's pretty simple. They also teach you how to do just some zigzags, and you can put as many colors in the water as you want, and then you zigzag them all together. Then once you have your design in the water, you take a piece of paper. There at Turkish Arts, you can also do some textile as well. I know for sure that they have silk. And occasionally you can do something like a tote bag or something like that. We only did paper. So then you take the paper and you very carefully lay it down onto the water solution. Then after you lay it down, you kind of give it just a little not like any like hard taps or anything. You just kind of make sure that it's all touching, all the paper is touching the water. Then you very carefully pull it towards you. And then after a little while, you then pull it straight up. And at that point, you'll be able to see that whatever design you had on the water has been transferred to the paper. And it is so incredibly wonderful because it's an instantaneous art project that you get to see. And it's just so unique and so fun. And for people, so there are 6 in our family. So 6 of us did this. You can imagine 6 people. Ryan, oh goodness, how old would he have been? Oh, don't hold me to this for sure, but he was going to be around 9. Yeah. I think he was 9. So from 9 years old, so we would have had 9, 11, 14, and 6. No, 9, 11, 13, and 14. Those would have been the ages of our kids doing this. And then 2 adults. So you can imagine in that the artistic level of each person, right? And I say this is someone with no artistic ability. Eric is a fantastic painter and he travels with some art stuff. And our daughter Riley is a wonderful artist. I am not. So this was even wonderful for an adult who doesn't have an artistic anything. I don't have an artistic hair in my body. Like there's nothing artsy about me. No matter how I try, no matter how many times Eric's tried to teach me, it doesn't matter. I don't get it. But this was very unique because it didn't really matter. You could mess up. I'm not going to say, oh, you can't mess up. You can mess up, but because it's so unique, it's really hard to be like, oh, wow, that one's just garbage. Because even if you do a paper that just has squiggly lines all over it, there is something then you can do with that paper. And we'll get to that at the end. But right now I'm just kind of explaining it. And so I have the Turkish Arts website linked in the show notes. And I would encourage you to check them out, especially if you're going to Istanbul, because there you're going to be able to see pictures of it and you're going to be able to watch. You can go to like their Instagram and watch videos. And it's just such a fun, unique way to do not just an art an art project, but it's so much deeper culturally because you get to connect with a way to do art that is very Turkish. And that was really special for us to not just go and have a day out, but to have something that connected us to the country that we were staying in. And that was really, really nice. And so I don't think we would have had that cultural experience if we wouldn't have done it with an art school like Turkish Arts. And not only was it just fun to do the art, but we had an amazing day. So the woman that runs Turkish Arts, her name is Beytul, but I know I'm saying it wrong. And her husband's name is Ali. And they speak English, and they are 2 of the nicest people. If you've been to Turkey, you'll know what I mean by that Turkish hospitality. And so they made tea for us. They gave the kids snacks. Like they were just so, so nice and so welcoming that I can't recommend them enough. They were just so kind. And another really great thing about this for a family, and I don't think I can highlight this enough. The kids got to do as many pieces of paper as they wanted. Like so many other times we've paid to do activities and it's like, okay, you only have 10 papers. Like here, this is your pile of papers. So do what you want. It was not that way whatsoever. There was a huge stack of papers and it was like, hey, you can go as long as you want, basically. Like I think it was a 2-hour session, but we went over 2 hours and they didn't care. They didn't charge us anymore. And they were just so, so nice. They genuinely wanted all 6 of us to have a positive time doing this experience. And we did. Like we still talk about it to this day as one of our favorite family experiences, especially in Istanbul. and we love Istanbul and we had a lot of really great experiences, but Turkish art was just high up on the list because we all six of us enjoyed it and we weren't rushed and we got to do it as much as we wanted, which is, I feel like, unheard of anymore in the world. And so that was really, really nice. So I do want to tell you a couple things about Turkish Arts and doing an experience with them, just so you have a heads up, because I do recommend using them for a time, like for an activity when you're in Istanbul. The first thing to know is it is not in an inconvenient location, but it's also not right at all the tourist stuff. So it's not so far out that you're gonna, like, it's in the city, it's in Istanbul, but it's not right beside the Blue Mosque. So you are gonna have to be a little comfortable, not going out of your way, but just maybe not being on the main tourist path. But it was not at an inconvenient location either. And the reason I say this is because you have to let all of the papers dry and then you'll come back another day to collect them. So I think I ended up going back maybe 3 days later. They weren't like, you have to come back tomorrow. They were very patient. And I was like, hey, we have some stuff going on. Can I come back like on Thursday or something? And they were like, yeah, that's fine. But they leave it there. They have a lot of space that all the papers can dry out really, really good. They're not dripping wet, but they are damp. And so you can't just stack them on top of each other because then they will get ruined. So you have to let them dry out really good. And then you'll set up a time to go back. And only one of you has to go back in the family. Like I didn't take any of the kids. I just went myself and I collected the papers. And I probably got some baklava on the way home with the chai. Like, I have a feeling that probably happened. So just know that as you're planning, I don't want anyone to be surprised, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know we had to go back to this place another time. Yes, you will. And they talk about that on their website also. They mention it. So they're really upfront about it too, but they don't want your papers to get ruined from just, hey, we just did all this beautiful Ebru, but now it's got ruined because we don't have a way to dry it properly. So you'll just go back another day. Not a big deal. And then another thing about Turkish Arts is they do have other things. So they have some tile painting, they have silk printing. So if you have kids that might see something and they really want to do the thing that they see, and maybe like they'll get upset if you say no, just be aware so you can talk to them and say, hey, we're going to go to this place. This is what we're going to do. And you can show them pictures or YouTube videos or whatever, but then let them know you're also going to see this, but we're not going to do that. Or if you want to do it, then plan to do both. But sometimes it's nice to let your kids know that, hey, I'm aware that there's other things we can do here. Mom's not surprised. Dad's not surprised. We're just choosing to not do it. So then they can be aware when you get there. And then also you can do like tote bags and that kind of stuff. It does cost a little bit more to do a tote bag over just the paper, but it could be a really great souvenir to have if you want to, especially if you feel really confident in your artistic abilities. You're like, no, I want to make a tote bag. I would not have done a tote bag just because I don't trust myself to make something so nice that it's worth carrying around. That's just me. Eric and Riley totally could have. Like, they picked up on it instantly, and they were doing trees with flowers on them and with backgrounds. It was crazy. I was not that way. That's okay. So after you then go, you have your wonderful day. You maybe have a chai with them, which I'm sure they will invite you to have some chai. And then you do your Turkish art and you have a wonderful day as your family. And then you go back and you pick up your Ebru. What do you do with it? So we left there with a huge stack of papers. And these papers are not a typical 9x13 piece of paper. They are larger papers. And because of the fact that they got a little bit wet and then they dry, they're not perfectly flat. So what we did is we picked several of them and we said, okay, which ones are your absolute favorite. You don't want them to get ruined. And the kids picked their favorites. And those ones were laid flat in the bottom of my suitcase, because my suitcase, they could lie perfectly flat in there. And then I just put my packing cubes on top of them to kind of keep them from getting messed up. Then the other ones, we just rolled up and put a rubber band around them. And it was like, hey, yeah, these ones might get a little bit creased, but we're okay with that. Here's a pro tip. Write the name of if you have more than one kid, even if there's only 3 of you, I would still suggest doing this. Write the name, like maybe on the back of the piece of paper, of everyone's papers before they start putting them in the water. So like give everyone, I don't know, like start with 10 or something and just write everyone's name. So like, I wish I would have done this and we didn't. That's why I'm telling you to do this, because when we got them back, it was really confusing to say, okay, whose was this? Because you're not going to remember. Everyone did, probably of all 6 of us, everyone did 15 different pieces of paper. And I can't remember who did what. I don't know. And so it was just a lot of papers. And so I would suggest write the name on the piece of paper and then make sure that name then is on the back. So you'll write your name and then flip it over and then put the side that's not written on, put that into the water to collect the design. Because then when you go to collect them and you have them back at your apartment, you'll be able to go, oh, okay, well, this was mine, this was Dad's, this was Riley's, and you can sort them out really, really easily. So then we made 2 separate piles. These are the ones we really, really like. We want them to stay nice. These are the ones we're like, oh yeah, they're nice, but they're not our favorites. And with those ones, we left some in Turkey because we wrote on the back of them thank you notes or goodbye notes to people that we got to know, because we were in Turkey for 2.5 months. And we were going to an English church, and we had the same butcher the entire time. We had the same bread guy the entire time, and we had the same grocery guy the entire time. And so we picked some for each of them. Oh, and also our Airbnb host was amazing. I feel like even just in the past few years, Airbnb has really changed. It was just, it's just changing a little bit, which is fine. But back then, I mean, and this was only 4 years ago, almost coming up on 5. No, that's a lie. Coming up on 4. This is coming up on 4 years ago. There it is. And so our Airbnb host was just really, really sweet. And him and his son would come over, and like if there's any little problem, they would just instantly come over to fix it. They were just wonderful. And so we left one there with a thank you note for them. And so that's what we did with some of ours. Then we still had a good amount left over. Remember, there are 6 of us, and we each did, even if we just say 10, that's 60 pieces of paper. So I'm just going to give you 3 ideas. We didn't do these ideas. Ours are still in our storage unit in Ohio. But these are 3 ideas for just to kind of help get your imagination going of what you could do with your Ebru afterwards, so that it doesn't end up just sitting in a storage unit somewhere. The first one is you can turn them into Christmas ornaments. So you can, and there's loads of ideas. Just go to the internet and you're going to find loads of ideas of how to turn paper into Christmas ornaments. You can either just put tape tape it front and back and then cut it a design. You can actually get a Christmas ornament and then Mod Podge. There's just so many things that you can do to turn paper into Christmas ornaments. And that'd be really, really fun. Not only could you keep some, but you'll most likely have enough that you could gift some to people. So your kids can help make little Christmas ornaments for their friends, for family, or you could also make some garland out of it for I'm imagining stars. If you can cut stars out of the paper and then turn it into a garland for your Christmas tree, or you could make a garland for your house somewhere and just kind of hang it up in a doorway to remind you of your time in Istanbul, just whatever. so many things you can do to turn paper into an ornament. I would look into that. Another thing that is really nice to do with them is turn them into cards. And so just take the big piece of paper, and you can probably cut out, depending on the size, you might even be able to get 4 if you want to do a little bit smaller. I would say you could get 3 to 4 cards out of each page, and you could use them for anything. Honestly, any event, you can then you'll have your own homemade cards, and you can just maybe write something on the back of it like, this is from an art experience we had in Istanbul, Turkey. Hope you enjoy it. And yeah, like, you're not going to get to keep it and enjoy it, but you're gifting it. And that's a really good idea to maybe do with some of your not favorite ones. And maybe that sounds selfish, but you want to obviously keep your favorite ones to display or to have for yourself to enjoy. But then you're going to have some other ones that you're like, oh, this isn't my favorite, but it's still pretty. And you could turn it into some cards for people. I think that's a really sweet idea. And then my last suggestion is take them to a place that does lamination and laminate them. And you can either then put them something like, get a frame and put them up and hang them up somehow. Or I think a really fun thing to do is turn them into placemats. And so you can go somewhere and get thicker lamination, and then you'll be able to use them for placemats. And as you're sitting down having family dinner, you can be like, oh, look, this is something that we made. Or when you're having people come over, you can pull them out. And it's just a really fun way to display your art that's not the typical, just put it in a picture frame and hang it up or something. So those are my just 3 ideas to get your brain flowing about what you could do with your Ebru once you are done with it. So that's it. When I came up to record this episode, I told my kids, I was like, it's not going to be a long one. It's a very short episode. So I was kind of right. I was pretty on the money on that. So if you have ever done Ebru, I would love to hear about it. Send me an email, hello@familyofdashes.com. It's down in the show notes. Or you can jump over to Instagram. We don't do a lot on Instagram. Full disclosure, I really struggle with social media in so many ways. I don't use it in my personal life. And so then trying to use it for the Family of Dashes side of things, that doesn't translate. So since I don't use it personally, I don't use it for quote unquote business things either. So really bad at it. But if you send me a message on Instagram, I will get it, because I do open up Instagram to look at other people's things. I just don't post. So I'm one of those people. But email is always a good thing. So, and I would love to hear your experience with Ebru, how it went for you, if you had fun, and then what did you do with it after? Is it like mine and just sitting in a storage unit somewhere? One day I'll do something with it. I will. So that is all for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. And if you're going to Istanbul, seriously, check out Turkish Arts. Their website is in the show notes. I can't recommend them enough. The people are just so kind there, and it's a really fun experience for the whole family. It really is something that, unless you have little toddlers, I don't know if I would recommend that. But I mean, if you have even a young kid that understands the idea of painting, I think then you could help them do this, and it would be fantastic. You might not stay there as long as we did. You might just be there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, but it would still be something I think even a young kid could do. Like I said, Ryan was 9. So, and he got it immediately. There wasn't like a struggle. So I think even potentially 6, 7-year-olds, depending on just the personality of your kid, they could do this. So that is it. I hope that you enjoy. If you've made it this far, it would be cool if you left a review or a rating or both on whatever listening platform you're listening on. That'd be really cool. It helps other people find us. It lets all of the platforms know that people are here, and it just helps everyone see what we're doing over here. So that'd be great. All right, guys, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I hope you continue to travel joyfully.